and welcome back to my channel. This is Chicky Bean Loves Books. My name is Jenna, and today we're gonna do a TBR for the month of April. I'm posting this a little bit earlier than I normally do. I have so many videos that come at the end of the month, the wrap up, the announcement for the next Bean's Big Book Bash pick, the wrap up of the current month's Bean's Big Book Bash pick. There are at least 3 videos that come at the end of every month, plus the 4th video, which is usually my TBR. That just feels so excessive. You don't hear from me for most of the month, and then boom, at the end of the month, you get so many videos in a row. And so I'm going to make an effort to post my TBR for the following month in the middle of the month. All of this chatter out of the way, let's just talk about my, what month? My April TBR. Yeah, we get to do Jenga today, and I'm really excited about it. And we have to pick 8 books. So that's gonna be a lot of fun. But first, let's go through the stack that's sitting next to me of books that I'm gonna read for other intents and purposes. First of all, it's a little bit early in the month, so I don't have all of the pre-orders that are rolling in this month. So I'll put some pictures up of some of the pre-orders that I'll be reading, but 2 of them are here. So first off, the 4 that aren't here yet. So there is Aunties, 4 Aunties and a Wedding. I have them written down here and I can't read my own handwriting. 4 Aunties and a Wedding, which I'm really excited about. Dial A for Aunties was the first book in this series and I absolutely adored it. It is lighthearted, silly, funny, mystery, total have to suspend reality, romance, but really enjoyable, and I am looking forward to the lighthearted second read. I believe she's getting married, and that's really great. Nanette, which is a memoir, and then there is Book of Cold Cases by Simone St. James, which I'm really looking forward to. A little bit of a scary, creepy read, which will be great. And then there is The Cartographers, which my sister got from Book of the Month. I don't do Book of the Month, but she's doing Book of the Month. She picked that one, and it looked so good that I went ahead and pre-ordered it. And then I have 2 others. One is this new edition of The Hiding Place by Corrie ten Boom that is full of images, illustrations, photos, maps, beautiful quote pages. But I believe this is the text of the book, The Hiding Place, which I have never read. I've seen the movie. I've heard Corrie ten Boom interviewed many times, and 2 of my college professors knew her personally. Corrie ten Boom has a really solid place in my heart, and I feel like I know her even though I don't. I know her by association, but I've never read her book. And then there's this one by Rosie Walsh, The Love of My Life. It says, I have held you at night for 10 years and I didn't even know your name. We have a child together, a dog, a house. Who are you? Emma loves her husband Leo and their young daughter Ruby. She'd do anything for them, but almost everything she's told them about herself is a lie, and she just might have gotten away with it if it weren't for her husband's job. Leo is an obituary writer, and I'm gonna pause it there. So I was really intrigued by the thriller mystery story that's being rolled out here. Hopefully the premise of this is gonna reel me in and I'm gonna love it. So we'll see. Then I have 2 books that I'm rolling over from February's TBR that did not get read. You'll see me do this a couple of months in a row. So there was a lot of books in February that didn't get read because February was a really tough month, a very busy month. And so there are some that I'm rolling over onto other TBRs as the year progresses. The 2 that I'm rolling over from February into April are Howard's End by E.M. Forrester, A Precious Daughter by Diane Allen. Then of course, Anne of Green Gables. I did not get to Anne of Green Gables last month, thus breaking my endeavor to read Anne of Green Gables 12 times this year, but that's okay. I think 11 is gonna be fine. Birthday books that I ordered for my birthday book haul that I've worked into my TBR over the course of the year. I'm so excited about this one. This is Pied Piper by Neville Shute. So I'm really excited to read another Neville Shute. I loved A Town Like Alice so much. You have no idea. I still, a year later, don't have words to fully express how much I enjoyed the reading of that book. I'm really excited to read this one. This is the second Neville Shute I will ever read. It is about a man who ends up agreeing to get a bunch of kids out of war-torn Europe and to safety. None of them are his. I'm excited about it. And then I love this cover, The Readers of Broken Wheel Recommend by Katrina Bevald, or by no means a new book, but I had avoided this book because of the cover, which I know is ridiculous. But the American cover of this book it's bland and dull, and there was nothing there to even make me want to pick it up to read the back of the book, the synopsis. But then I saw this online. I believe I got this from Better World Books. And did I? Yes, I did. I did get this from Better World Books. And it is delightful. Also, I love the end papers. But when I saw this and I stopped on it and I read the synopsis, I was like, that's what I've been ignoring all these years. So Sarah is 28 and has never been outside Sweden except in the many books she reads. When her elderly pen friend Amy invites her to come and visit her in Broken Wheel, Iowa, Sarah decides it's time, but when she arrives, there's a twist waiting for her. Amy has died. There's more in the synopsis, but I have never read it, and that is as much as I need, and that cover is as much as I need, and I'm going in and I'm excited about it. And then one of the books that I got for Christmas is The Paper Garden. So I've worked this into my stack as well. This is by Molly Peacock. An artist begins her life's work at 72. This gives me hope as I try to write a novel I've been trying to write for 10 years. It's a good novel, people, but it feels bigger than me. And so to read a fictionalized account of a real life woman who started her artistic career at 72 gives me, who's multiple decades younger than that, a lot of hope. So in 1772, upon the death of her second husband, Mary Delaney arose from her grief, picked up a pair of scissors, and at the age of 72 created a new art form, mixed media collage, which is something I do. I teach art journaling classes on OutSchool, mostly during breaks. I'm a teacher in real life in a brick and mortar school, and so I don't have a lot of time to do OutSchool during the school year, but on breaks, especially during the summer, I teach a lot of classes of art journaling, which is mixed media collage for the most part. Over the next decade, Mrs. Delaney produced an astonishing 985 botanically correct, breathtaking cut paper flowers that are now housed in the British Museum and referred to as the Flora Delanica. As she tracks Delincia? I'm not trying to say that. As she tracks the extraordinary life of Delaney, friend of George Frederick Handel and Jonathan Swift, internationally acclaimed poet Molly Peacock weaves in delicate parallels in her own life, and in doing so creates a profound and beautiful examination of the nature of creativity and art. So I was even wrong about that. This is not a fiction. This is not a novelization. This is a memoir of a poet. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. This is a memoir of a poet and an artist. I cannot tell you how excited I am about this book. Okay, and then I'm only going to read one book for the American Library Association ALA 52 books recommendations this month. That is The Doomsday Machine, Confessions of a Nuclear War Planner. I had planned to read this one at the end of December, right after Christmas, probably on the 26th. It seems terribly timely, given what's going on in the world these days. So I will be reading that. I feel a little bit trepidatious about it, just emotionally, but I will be reading that. I have one book this month for the Read Harder Challenge. And I remember, lo and behold, I remember the prompt. This is for the prompt of a romance featuring an older an older individual. So I'm going to read Major Pettigrew's Last Stand, a novel by Helen Simonson. And this says, sometimes love does conquer all. You are about to travel to Edgecombe St. Mary, a small village in the English countryside filled with rolling hills, thatched cottages, and a cast of characters both hilariously original and as familiar as the members of your own family. Among them is Major Ernest Pettigrew, retired, the unlikely hero of Helen Simonson's wondrous debut. Wry, courtly, opinionated, and completely endearing, Major Pettigrew is one of the most indelible characters in contemporary fiction, and from the very first page of this remarkable novel, he will steal your heart. The Major leads a quiet life, valuing the proper things that Englishmen have lived by for generations: honor, duty, decorum, and a properly brewed cup of tea. But then his brother's death sparks an unexpected friendship with Mrs. Jasmina Ali, the Pakistani shopkeeper from the village. Drawn together by their shared love of literature and the loss of their spouses, the Major and Mrs. Ali soon find their friendship blossoming into something more. But village society insists on embracing him as the quintessential local and regarding her as the permanent foreigner. Can their relationship survive the risks one takes when pursuing happiness in the face of culture and tradition? And that just sounds so delightful. All right, Agatha Christie this month is A Murder is Announced. I've heard so many good things about A Murder is Announced. I know a little bit about it, but not as much as I knew about the first two, more than I knew about the last one that I read. So my reread for the month is What the Body Remembers by Shauna Singh Baldwin. I first read this 20 years ago, maybe? I think probably about 20 years ago. No, could it be 20 years? Yeah, 20 years ago. I read it in India. It takes place during the partition between India and Pakistan. I only read it once. I've never read it since, but I have ever since thought of it as a favorite book. I didn't even actually own a copy. This is not the copy that I read when I lived in India. I left that copy with a friend there, and I didn't even own it, but I just kept it in my heart and mind as a book that I thought was a favorite. I have two more books to show you before we do Jenga. The first one is one that I've got it on my currently reading on Goodreads, but I'm not officially adding it to this TBR stack because I'm not trying to finish it in 1 month. I started it last month. It's very dense. It's very fascinating, and I want to continue reading it, but it might take me 6 months or something. So that is this mammoth, The Dawn of Everything, A New History of Humanity by David Graeber and David Wingrove. So I'm just going to show this each month until I have finished it, and then when I finally finish it, I will include it in that month's wrap up, whichever month of the year or maybe next year that I finish it in. So I'm looking forward to continuing to read that. And then Bean's Big Book Bash pick. I am going to show you this in a second, and you can maybe tell what it is if you are versed in covers. But first I want to just say that I will also have a book for my In Real Life book group, but it hasn't been picked yet because we still haven't discussed the crazy, wild, alien, intergalactic romance that we read last month. More on that at the wrap up. So I don't know what book we're reading next month, but I will be including that in my TBR stack as well once I know that. In the meantime, Bean's Big Book Bash pick for the month of April is East of Eden. And this is, of course, by John Steinbeck. I really love John Steinbeck's writing. I do not love all of John Steinbeck's books, but I love Steinbeck's writing. And I've never read a longer work by Steinbeck. I've never read East of Eden. I've never seen the movie. I understand that there's a lot of biblical allusion in this book, which I'm really excited about. You probably don't know. Maybe you do. I don't know if I've ever said it before, but my undergraduate degree is in basically biblical literature, basically. And so I know the Bible and I love finding it in American literature so much. It's one of my most exciting things. And so I am really looking forward to reading this. You know what it's time to do? It's time to play Jenga. 8, 8. Here we go. Let's go ahead and check out the books that Jenga picked for me. First, I had to pick an M. I think that's how I picked this one. An M book, and I went for the author's last name, McKay, Sinclair McKay. And that is a nonfiction, The Lady in the... Oh, was this Newest? That's what it was. Newest. That's what it was. The Lady in the Cellar. Murder, Scandal, and Insanity in Victorian Bloomsbury, which sounds fascinating to me. The end paper, totally scary and creepy. It says, the discovery of a well-dressed lady's body in the coal cellar of 4 Euston Square gripped the public imagination in Victorian London and shocked wider society as a whole. However, this macabre find was just the beginning of this scandalous story. I love me some Victorian true crime. I truly do. Then I had to pick a nonfiction, which The Lady in the Cellar is a nonfiction, but Jenga said more. So I picked A Life of Her Own, The Transformation of a Countrywoman in 20th Century France by April TBR. I don't know if I'm saying that right. It's a vibrant, uplifting account of a tough, independent woman's life, a personal hymn to France that exists no more. Émile Carle was born into the rigidly conservative, patriarchal world of a poor and isolated peasant community in the high Alps of southeastern France. Her autobiography is the story of a world that has largely disappeared and of the one that has emerged to take its place. A woman who loved life and who was determined to make something of her own. Carle reflects on the turbulent history of the 20th century from the viewpoints of the many roles she played in it: teacher, farmer, feminist, pacifist, political activist. The tone of their memoir reflects the strength and joy she brought to a fight against ignorance and intolerance, a fight for peace and justice sustained to the end of her long life. This is a remarkable book about a remarkable woman. I'm all for that. A book that had the letter B somewhere in it, and this is in the title and the author's first name. So The Big Finish by Brooke Fossey. I love this cover so much. It says, it's never too late for a do-over in this funny winning debut. Meet Duffy, an old curmudgeon who lives in an assisted living home. Meet Josie, a desperate young woman who climbs through his window. Together, they're going to learn it's never too late or too early to change your ways. Sounds wonderful. Hope it is that feel-good book that I think it will be. Then I needed to pick, ironically, a middle grade. Ironic only because I just read so much middle grade for Middle Grade March. But I do have The Seance Tea Party. This is a graphic novel. It says, growing up is terrible. No one has time to play outside or use their imagination or do anything fun. Who wants that? Not Laura. She's determined to still have fun even after her friends all seem to fade away with their new interests and new friends. A magical tea party introduces Laura to Alexa, the ghost that haunts her house. Alexa will be a kid forever, but what will happen as Laura continues to grow older? So that sounds delightful. And again, it is a graphic novel. Then I had to pick a book that I don't like the cover of. And I don't have a lot of books that I don't like the cover of, but this is definitely truly one of them. I do not like this cover, and I think it has put me off of reading it for a really long time. This is a book by Ellen Hildebrand, who wrote one of my favorite series of all time, which also has a bunch of covers that I do not like. She wrote the Winter Street books, and I love those books. And I've never read anything else by this author, so I am looking forward to reading this standalone. This is The Blue Bistro. I picked this up at least over a year ago, maybe two, and I think I do put it off because I really dislike the covers. But this is Adrienne Dealey has spent the past 6 years working for hotels and exotic resort towns. This summer, she has decided to make Nantucket her home. Almost everything Ellen Hildebrand writes is set in Nantucket. Left flat broke by her ex-boyfriend, she's desperate to earn some fast money. When the desirable Thatcher Smith, owner of Nantucket's hottest restaurant, is the only one to offer her a job, she wonders if she can get by with no restaurant experience. Thatcher gives Adrienne a crash course in the business, and they share an instant attraction. But there's a mystery about their situation, which I won't read about. I don't know that the back of the book or the cover of the book would have really drawn me into it, but I know how much I enjoyed this author's writing. It's kind of romancy, soapish, family saga-ish, and I really did adore it. It is overly dramatic, but it doesn't faze me, coming from Ellen Hildebrand. So I don't know if that book is going to be a favorite or if I'm even going to finish reading it. It might be a DNF, I don't know, but I know that I have it. I know I'm curious to know whether or not I still like Ellen Hildebrand outside of Winter Street, and so we're going to give it a shot. Thank you to Jenga for making it happen. Then I needed to pick a book that had a J somewhere in the title or the author, and I picked Jane in Love, a novel by Rachel Givney. Jane in Love. This is one of the books that I was given for Christmas. It says, what if Jane Austen traveled to the present day and fell in love? Bath, England, 1803. At 28, Jane Austen prefers walking and reading to balls. She also dreams of someday publishing her carefully crafted stories. Above all, she wants love. In grave danger of becoming a spinster, Jane goes searching for a radical solution and by accident, time travels. She lands in Bath, England, present day, the film set of Northanger Abbey. Now, wouldn't that be weird? To be an author and end up on the film set of your not yet published book. As Jane acquaints herself with the horseless carriages and shocking fashions of the 21st century, she also discovers she's now a published author, a famous one. She befriends Sophia Wentworth, a fated Hollywood actress, starring in the new period film, who offers to help Jane return to her own time. Then Jane meets Fred, Sophia's brother, who has the audacity to be handsome, clever, and kind-hearted. It says more, but I'll stop there. And then I needed to pick something that had an S somewhere in it, and I picked The Saturday Wife, a novel by Naomi Reagan. I'm really excited to be getting to this one. I have several more Naomi Reagans on my shelf, which I haven't got to yet. Naomi Reagan became one of my favorite authors last year as I read An Unorthodox Match and An Observant Wife. And I think that she is a phenomenal writer. She writes such real people in such real situations with such heart, with a philosophical and a theological and a practical approach. I absolutely love her writing. So it says in this one, it says, in this compulsively readable peek inside the life of a rabbi's sexy wife in the wealthy, status-driven suburbs, Delilah Levi is a social climber who spent her adolescence dreaming of turning her blonde good looks into a brilliant match, as did her mother. But when fate intervenes in the form of a sincere but not overly bright rabbinical student, she decides disastrously to become the rabbi's wife. Her husband is posted to an affluent suburban modern Orthodox synagogue, and Delilah befriends the fabulously wealthy Joey Shamanov, who introduces her to a world of material excess that rivals her wildest daydreams. When the demands of a hypocritical board and unbearable congregants finally push her over the edge, the consequences set in motion a social tornado that sweeps everything in its path. I'm excited. And then finally, I needed to pick something from the letter C. I went with the author's last name, Chang. I love this cover. The Library of Legends, a novel by Janie Chang. I've never read anything by this author, although I own several of her books. Several of her books are sitting on my shelves. So this is Myths Are the Darkest and Brightest Incarnations of Who We Are. China, 1937. When Japanese bombs begin falling on the city of Nanking, 19-year-old Hu Lian and her classmates at Minghua University are ordered to flee. Lian and a convoy of students, faculty, and staff must walk 1,000 miles to the safety of China's western provinces, a journey marred by the constant threat of aerial attack. And it is not just the refugees who are at risk. Lian and her classmates have been entrusted with a priceless treasure, a 500-year-old collection of myths and folklore known as the Library of Legends. The students' common duty to safeguard the Library of Legends forms unexpected bonds. Leon finds friendship and a cautious romance with the handsome and wealthy Lu Xiaoming, but after one classmate is murdered and another arrested, Leon realizes she must escape before a family secret puts her in danger. I'm going to stop there. Sounds awesome, wonderful, exciting. I know that I've mentioned before that I used to live in India. Maybe this is your first time seeing me, so you don't know that, but I also used to live in China. And so I am really drawn to stories about both of those places. Let's just very quickly do a recap of the books that I will be reading in April. It looks like a really great month. Looks like a not too heavy month, like topic-wise. So that's good. So I don't know what my In Real Life Book Club read will be. I have some pre-orders that are here that I haven't received yet. So that's For Aunties in a Wedding, Nanette, Book of Cold Cases, The Cartographers. I also just realized that I forgot to tell you what Shakespeare I am reading this month, and that is Measure for Measure. I do not have a individual Folgers copy of that, mostly because I really detest the cover. Who was just saying I don't have a lot of covers that I don't like? That is definitely one of them. And I'm hoping someday they'll reprint it with a different cover that more closely resembles the other covers in the series, but I don't want to purchase that one at this time. I do have a gigantic bind up of Royal Shakespeare Company's plays, like their editions of the plays, that I will read it in my Royal Shakespeare Company mammoth book, which I'm not going to pull off my shelf right now. So I forgot to mention that. So I probably have more than 25 books on my, and I definitely have more than 25 books on my stack, but not much more. And chances are one or two of these will end up being a DNF. So we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll read a little bit more than 25. That's okay. Then I also have, and these are all stacked out of order, so I won't worry about any order. I am going to slowly continue to make progress in The Dawn of Everything, A New History of Humanity. East of Eden by John Steinbeck for Bean's Big Book Bash. What the Body Remembers by Shauna Singh Baldwin as my reread. A Murder is Announced. The only book I'm reading for Read Harder Challenge this month is Major Pettigrew's Last Stand. The Doomsday Machine, Confessions of a Nuclear War Planner by Daniel Ellsberg. The Paper Garden, which I think I am most excited about this month. The Readers of Broken Wheel recommend. Pied Piper by Neville Shute. Anne of Green Gables again. Howard's End and A Precious Daughter. The Love of My Life. The Hiding Place. The Lady in the Cellar. Seance Tea Party, The Big Finish, which I'm very curious about, A Life of Her Own, which I'm very, very curious about, The Saturday Wife, which I'm really looking forward to, Jane in Love, which sounds just lighthearted and delightful, The Blue Bistro, which I may or may not like, but I'm curious to know more from the author, and The Library of Legends, which I'm curious about whether or not I get along with this author, seeing as I buy it because of the covers. The artist of this knows my style. I own so many books by Jamie Chang, but I have not read any of them yet. So I think that my April stack could not get any better. There's a lot of historical fiction here. There's a lot of feel-good here. There's a good deal of nonfiction, but normally I read at least 5 nonfiction books in a month, and this 25 book limit that I'm trying to stick to is really, it makes me edge out the nonfiction. So, but I really do enjoy nonfiction. Graphic novels and memoirs and essays and classics. It's gonna be a good reading month. I'm still in the midst of March Mystery Madness, my normal stack and middle grade March, as well as Herstory-a-thon. It is just the middle of March here, and I'm still well deep into that. I probably won't read all the books that I had on my TBR. My TBR was over 40 books large. Considered it more of a possibility pile, and that's more than okay. But I will get through a lot of them, and so many of them. It's such a mixed bag. So that's it. Thank you for watching me play Jenga. If you ever want to play Jenga with me, that would be awesome. If you want to pick books based on the tiles that come out of my Jenga stack, it's always a little bit unknown how many tiles I'll pick in a month, because it really just depends on rounding out my stack to at least 25 books. Not at least, hopefully not exceeding 25 books. But it's always generally between 5 and 8 or 9 books that I pull out. And it's a fun time. So if you would like to do that with me, I would love to know what books you end up choosing to go with the tiles that I pull. Also, if you are interested in reading any of these, if you have read any of these, let me know. Let me know your thoughts. Let's go read. Bye.